Illinois at Penn State is the most pivotal game on the entire Big Ten schedule this weekend. Both teams are ranked in the top 25. So why is Illinois a 17-point dog in this game? Locked On Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman, coming up on 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer. And I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Illinois at Penn State, and the disrespect for the Fighting Illini. Maybe that's good for Penn State. Plus, we'll have our players of the week and the latest news around the league and our power rankings. We always do that middle of the week. We rank them 1 through 18 the way we see it. It's all coming up. Now, the biggest game on the Big Ten slate this weekend features a battle of ranked teams. Number 19, Illinois, hits the road to face number 9, Penn State, in a nationally televised game on NBC's Big Ten Saturday night. Awesome, right? By the way, programming note, Locked On Big Ten will go live immediately after that game. So check it out on our YouTube channel, Locked On Big Ten Live, with all the reaction to that game and all the other games in the Big Ten. Well, let's talk about this game a little bit more here. My first question is, with Illinois' resume, why are they 17.5-point underdogs heading into this game? I don't get it. And the total's 47.5. So what? Vegas thinks Penn State is just going to easily win this one, 31-17 in that range? Maybe they will, but there's some things that don't add up for me. Look, Penn State is brutal. When they're at home, tough to beat. No question about it for anybody. But Illinois has earned a little more respect than this. And Penn State better not take them lightly. Now, this will be back-to-back road games for Illinois against opponents that were ranked. Last Friday night, they went into Nebraska and beat the Huskers. Luke Altmaier had 4 touchdown passes in that game, including the game winner in overtime. Not forgetting Illinois' win over number 19, Kansas. They were 19th then a couple of weeks ago. They're the first FBS team to register 2 top 25 wins this season, and the Illini are 4-0 for the first time in 13 years, and just the second time since 1951. They're a good football team. As for Penn State, the Nittany Lions, also a good football team, also undefeated. Season-opening road win at West Virginia, win over Bowling Green, which, by the way, proved to be a little more difficult than people expected, and then the blowout win over Kent State last weekend. Now, while Penn State won this matchup last year in Champaign against Illinois, 30-13, people still talk about their 9 overtime battle that they had at Beaver Stadium in 2021 when Illinois won. That was the longest game in college football history. But that's all history. Let's get locked in on Saturday night. What's at stake in this game? Everybody's looking up at the standings and looking up at Ohio State, and they look invincible right now. And everybody would like to join them in the presumptive Big Ten championship game in December. Oregon, Michigan, USC, Penn State, Illinois, Nebraska, Iowa, Rutgers. I can go on. There's a bunch of teams that all jumbled up there, want to break out and get in that upper tier, all jockeying for position. This game Saturday night will go a long way to determine the Big Ten pecking order. By the way, speaking of pecking order, stick around to the end of this podcast. We'll have our weekly power rankings right at the end. Now, one item in Illinois' favor, they're battle tested. They're absolutely, we're still September and they're already battle tested. Those wins against Kansas and Nebraska, they mean something. And again, while Beaver Stadium is one of the toughest places to play, and they're also going to do an unofficial whiteout there, try and get that atmosphere, Saturday night TV, the whiteout, the crazy fans, all that stuff. Certainly a home field advantage for Penn State. The Fighting Illini might feel right at home, coming off of last week's win at Nebraska at Memorial Stadium. where Nebraska just had its 400th straight sellout. Heck, it was practically a readout. So I think they're not only battle tested, they're used to this kind of atmosphere on the road. Meanwhile, Penn State, they struggled at home a couple games ago against Bowling Green. Now, that Bowling Green team may be pretty decent. And they had the blowout win over Kent State, where the Nittany Lions did whatever they wanted to do in that game as if it were a scrimmage. Illinois will be the toughest opponent that Penn State has faced this year by far. Illinois is led by quarterback Luke Altmaier, who I need to quit calling the most underrated player in the Big Ten Conference because he's not that underrated anymore. In fact, the Big Ten just named him co-offensive player of the week for his 4-touchdown performance in Lincoln. Last year in the game against Penn State, though, not so much. He threw 4 interceptions in that game, and maybe that's what the Vegas line makers are kind of clinging to. But Penn State coach James Franklin thinks Altmaier is the most improved player in the conference, and I would have to agree with that assessment. He's completed 71% of his passes. He's thrown 10 touchdown passes and 0 interceptions. You're not going to get any better than that. He's the real deal. Penn State better be ready. Sounds like James Franklin is ready. Got a couple of weapons to keep an eye on. Pat Bryant and Sakari Franklin. They're 2 senior experienced wide receivers that combined for 41 catches, 552 yards, and Bryant has caught 6 touchdown passes already. He is Altmaier's favorite target looking into the end zone and in the red zone. Now, Penn State's defensive coordinator, Tom Allen, will have his work cut out for him. Bowling Green's receivers ran rampant through the secondary of Penn State a couple of weeks ago. After that game, Allen made some changes. He was on the sidelines for the first couple of games for Penn State. Now he was up in the booth last week. He's going to stay up there. Looks like that's going to continue. Now, Altmaier isn't the only quarterback in this game. Penn State's Drew Aller has completed 71% of his passes so far with 8 touchdowns and 1 interception. That's not too bad either. Tight end Tyler Warren seems to be the secret weapon for new offensive coordinator Andy Kotelnicki. Warren has caught a couple of touchdown passes. He's thrown a touchdown pass, even rushed for a 16-yard gain last week. So he's all over the place. And then you got wide receivers Amari Evans and Harrison Wallace III for Penn State, who have shown some ability to go deep in an area where the Nittany Lions have been lacking for the last year or so. So maybe they got that fixed. Plus, Penn State could always rely on that running game. Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen on the ground, as good as it gets with the 1-2 punch. But they're going to go against an Illinois defense that has 7 interceptions and 3 fumble recoveries and 10 sacks already. We talked a lot about offense. Illinois is also bringing a defense to this game. Penn State's used to appreciating good defense. There's no question about it. But Penn State's defense hasn't looked as tight this year thus far, say, as the elite defense they exhibited last year. And Illinois looks like they're pretty good on defense. So no matter who you think is winning this game, there's no way Illinois is getting blown out by 17 points in this game. Book that. All right. What do you think? Penn State fans, Illinois fans, Big Ten fans? Let's hear it. Always love your comments on YouTube. You can always hit us up on there. Love it if you both start Illinois fans and Penn State fans be going back and forth. If you haven't yet, I'm going to ask you to subscribe. Click the little subscribe button. That helps us a lot, but it helps you and me. We're on the same page, talking Big Ten every day. We release a podcast every day. If you subscribe, we're right there ready for you each and every morning. So subscribe. And then we always ask you to share and follow and like Locked On Big Ten for free, wherever you get your podcast. That way you'll get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. All right, we've got our players of the week. We have some other news at Michigan and Wisconsin. We're going to get into it a little bit here, and then we'll have our power rankings at the end. We do that each and every Wednesday in the middle of the week. That's all coming up in 1 minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. Told you about Roy before. This is how you can help get in the NIL game and help your favorite team and your favorite players along. So it's time to highlight my Roy Player of the Week. Roy is the new platform that lets fans make contributions directly to their favorite athletes. You can download Roy for iOS or Android and enter the referral code Locked On and you'll automatically be entered into a sweepstakes to win $5,000 cash. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. This week, we are looking at Illinois quarterback Luke Altmaier, who we just spent some time talking about, who threw 4 touchdown passes and no interceptions in his overtime win over Nebraska last week. If you were as impressed with him as we are with his performance, you can show him some love financially. Just hop on Roy, throw in a few bucks. If everyone pitches in just $10, really add up for Luke Altmaier. So now you have a chance to show your appreciation for Luke and Illinois and his standout performance from last week, as well as what he'll continue to bring to your program. Get off the sidelines and into the nil game with Roy, or support the players, change the game with Roy. Also, I want to tell you about LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring your for your small office, or maybe you own a small business and you want to find some quality professionals just right for the role, got to check them out at LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open for the perfect role. Given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Want to thank you for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen every day, especially you everydayers out there. Thank you very much. Meanwhile, be sure to subscribe on YouTube and share and follow and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. And don't forget, we have a website, talkbig10.com. And all of our podcasts go there chronologically or grouped by your favorite school that we talk about that particular day. And you can get merchandise there, shirts, hats, t-shirts, pennants, mugs, everything you want with your team's logo on it. Talk Big Ten, number 10, talkbig10.com. Before we completely turn the page on week 4 and look ahead to week 5, we want to give kudos to our Big Ten players of the week. Co-offensive players of the week this week. We just mentioned Luke Altmaier and Illinois for the overtime win over Nebraska. And by the way, he's the first Illini quarterback to throw 4 touchdown passes on the road against a top 25 team since 1999. And through that, when throwing that game-winning overtime touchdown pass, Illinois' second 4-0 start since 1951. Meanwhile, the other co-offensive player of the week, Iowa's running back Caleb Johnson, has been on a tear. We talk about Iowa doesn't need to, they struggle passing the ball, and they don't need to. They got a running back like Caleb Johnson who's doing the work of 2 men. Career high 206 yards rushing and a career high 3 touchdowns in Iowa's 31-14 win on the road at Minnesota. He is that was his second career 200-yard game. He's the first Hawkeye with 4 straight 100-yard games in 12 years. He's the first Iowa running back with 2 or more touchdowns in the first 4 games since 1997. And he was also, by the way, the last Iowa player to be the offensive player of the week of the Big Ten when he garnered the award in November of 2022. Also, the defensive player of the week in the Big Ten this week was Michigan edge rusher Josiah Stewart. You all saw the USC-Michigan game. He had 4 tackles, 4 hurries, 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, a forced fumble in that win. Yeah, Miller Moss knows who Josiah Stewart is. Very familiar with him after that game. Special teams player of the week will stick with Michigan. Punter Tommy Doman punted 8 times in that game. It was that kind of game. 5 of them were over 50 yards. 3 of them placed inside the 15. 2 were placed inside the 10. You're not going to get any better than that. That's like Iowa punting numbers from back in the day. Freshman of the week, Washington linebacker Kamori House. First career interception versus Northwestern in their 24-5 win. 3 tackles on a defense that has not allowed a touchdown in 3 home games and held Northwestern to 112 total yards of offense. Back to Michigan for a moment. Coach Sherrone Moore announced that Alex Orji will be the starting quarterback versus Minnesota this week. We thought so. I wasn't expecting anything differently there. I don't know if this is going to be a weekly occurrence We got a weekly mention of who our starting quarterback is, or are we settling in on one? I'm not sure. So we'll keep an eye on it. Moore did answer a question about a starting running back situation. Khalil Mullings seems to be the guy ahead of Donovan Edwards, right? So far, been more explosive, a little more production. And look, Donovan Edwards seemed like he was going to be the incumbent when Blake Corum left, but Moore said Mullings has earned the right to be in that conversation. Look, there's going to be a 1-2 punch. It probably really doesn't matter who starts, but they'll both get a lot of touches. And from Michigan to Ohio State, let's talk about the Buckeyes. You know, offensive coordinator Chip Kelly and transfer quarterback Will Howard, they've been getting their feet wet in their first year in Columbus. And Howard said that he just loves Coach Kelly. Says everything is clicking right now. He especially loves the diversity of Kelly's play calling. Always something different. And the offense posted numerous big plays against Marshall Saturday, and the Buckeyes look like a pretty well-oiled machine going into the season, getting ready for Big Ten play here. So they all look good. And they all seem to be getting along swimmingly. Meanwhile, the Wisconsin Badgers, they're reshuffling the deck a little bit. They're coming off that big loss to Alabama at home. That was 2 weeks ago. Good news is Wisconsin, they got this bye week they're coming off of, helped them get ready for Southern Cal. But, of course, the bad news is they lost starting quarterback Tyler Van Dyke with a knee injury. Braden Locke steps in. He'll be ready to go. He'll start. You know, we're fans of his. If you listen to this podcast every day, he started a handful of games last year for Tanner Mordecai. So starting, that's not going to be new. So he'll be used to that. Granted, it'll be at the Coliseum at USC. Maybe Mature will be he's got no experience. He'll be the backup. So he's one snap away. That's a little dicey. Obviously, the Badgers will have game film from the USC-Michigan game. And maybe Tui Walker and Ches Malusi could get their running game going a little bit like the Wolverines eventually did. I'm sure Ricardo Hallman, who was the interception specialist last year, saw Will Johnson's pick six. So he's going to be ready to go. Looking at Miller Moss, maybe he could do the same thing. Maybe not. Maybe USC's offensive line can protect a little better than they did last week against that Michigan defensive front. We'll see. And I'm sure the Badgers will be ready to go, but they're going to go against and take on a USC team at the Coliseum, a USC team that's pretty upset with itself after losing at Michigan last weekend. So those are some thoughts on some key games coming up. Always like your reaction. Hit me up with the comments on YouTube, if you will. We have our power rankings. That is coming up next right here on Locked On Big Ten. FanDuel, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, go, there's a trend here. Maybe I'm going to jump on this. You get a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, right? You get all the latest stats and latest news right in the middle of the game, right there. You view the live play-by-play and a whole bunch more right on the same page where you place your bets. All that information is right at your fingertips. You get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Check it out. Tonight, Wednesday night, like baseball, I like the Tigers to beat the Rays. I like the under on a low-scoring game between the Padres and the Dodgers. And Thursday night football, I actually like the Giants. That sounds weird. Plus 4.5 over the Cowboys. The Cowboys are a mess right now. So that's how I'm rolling with all that. You can too at FanDuel. Go to FanDuel.com. It's time for our power rankings. We take them 1 through 18, Big Ten football, and how we see it with how everything's going. If you're on audio only, we'll describe it in details. We'll put it on screen here for the video, and we'll check this out. Ohio State, there is no reason to move them off of the top spot. I hear Ryan Day was not happy giving up a couple scores to Marshall last week. Everything else is clicking. If you're a coach, you got to find something to jump on as they get ready for Big Ten play and Michigan State. I've got Penn State at number 2 right now. We'll see. There could be some juggling 2 through 8 over the next week. This is when we start to find out who's who. Gonna keep Penn State up there. They got that home game that we spent a lot of time talking about against Illinois. Oregon, I'm going to keep it number 3 right here. Michigan, I'm going to nudge up to number 4. Getting back in the chase here. The Fighting Illini at number 5. They're ranked in the top 25. Why not? I've got Rutgers at 6. Some people might go, whoa, Rutgers ahead of USC. Yeah, I do right now. I think Rutgers is a solid, steady team, whereas USC has some gaps in its lineup. But still, that's respectable. Top 7, USC. Taking on Wisconsin this weekend. Got the Indiana Hoosiers at 8. 4-0. I think they've scored 202 points. Even Kurt Signetti said, yeah, that is awesome, but, look who we've played. Not to be disrespectful toward any of the opponents, but now they step up and they play Maryland. Let's see how the Hoosiers do this weekend in their first Big Ten game of the season. Got them at number 8. Got Nebraska falling to 9. I was a little surprised that they lost that game to Illinois, but now we see why. Again, we spent a lot of time building up Illinois today. Nebraska is still a good football team, and they are going to win a lot of football games. So I'm not giving up on them. Got them at 9. Got Maryland at 10. Billy Edwards Jr., pretty good at quarterback. And Ty Felton, favorite target. There's some weapons here. This Maryland-Indiana game is intriguing to me on Saturday. The Iowa Hawkeyes at 11. I can move them up. I don't see a lot of losses on their schedule coming up. And again, Cade McNamara, I think the last 2 weeks, we talk about Michigan can't pass. Cade McNamara 2 weeks ago threw for 99 yards, and I think last week it was like 62 yards. Michigan would take that in a heartbeat. But they got that great running game that we just discussed. Got Washington at number 12. They're making a cross-country move all the way to Rutgers at Piscataway. We'll see how they do. Michigan State. I would have Michigan State higher than 13th. But Aiden Child's got to quit throwing the ball to the other team. He's got 6 interceptions I can think of off the top of my head. Wisconsin, again, 14. They feel like they're not there. And they're going to go out there to USC, juggling some things around. I think the Luke Fickell rebuild is taking a little longer than people thought. Minnesota got number 15 with PJ Fleck. People unhappy around there. Northwestern at 16. I didn't change the page here. So again, the back 10, Iowa, Washington, Michigan State, Wisconsin, Minnesota. Got Northwestern at number 16. They just have no offense to speak of. Purdue at 17, and then UCLA. I'll give them credit for hanging with LSU at LSU for a half, 17-70 on a brutally hot day, but then it fell apart a little bit. I still got them at the bottom. I could be talked into moving them up a spot or two, but that's how I look at it. Iowa, Washington, Michigan State, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Northwestern, Purdue, and UCLA rounding out the bottom 10 of our weekly power rankings. What do you think? Did we get it right? Of course we did. Let us know, though. You think this should be in a different order? Hit us up with a comment on YouTube, and we always welcome that. And if you want to get back and forth with some of your rivals on there, that's always some fun reading as well. Many ways for you to get a hold of the show, of course, through Twitter, X, at Talk Big Ten, and also talkbig10.com, where we have all of our podcasts and merchandise for your favorite school that you can get right there. Whatever you do, be sure to subscribe and share and follow. We ask you that each and every day. If you haven't done it yet, please do. We're still getting about 1,000 subscribers a month. It's incredible. So those of you that are doing it, do it. If you haven't, jump on board. Everybody's doing it. Subscribe and follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app, and you get the latest episode of Lockdown Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Both the video and the audio versions come out at about 6 a.m. Eastern time, 3 o'clock in the morning on the West Coast every day. Invite you to go back and check out some more podcasts that we've done. Yesterday, we dissected USC a little bit. Day before it was Michigan. Then over the weekend, to get you all caught up right there. Check out your favorite team and what we've said about them. All the comments right there. When you're done with us, maybe a second listen for our friends at Locked On College Football. They're there every day talking about everything in college football on and off the field. Locked On College Football is also available on part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. That'll do it. We're getting closer to a big, big weekend. I can't believe it's week 5 already, and a lot more conference games going out of here. So we're very excited about that. We will be all over it right here. Until next time, thanks for joining us. I'm Craig Sheeman for Locked On Big Ten.